Hello everyone, in this video we will continue to implement a list in Python. In the previous video we have learned how to add elements to a list, and the second most interesting thing is how you can find an element in a list. So we have this list here, my underscore list, and we want to find the index of value 4. In this case you can just use the index function. So here mylist.index in the parentheses you type 4. And as you see from this list, index of 4 is 3. 0, 1, 2, and 3. Therefore, we get an output of 3. Similarly, you can also search list within a list using the index function. Here in this case, you see in the parentheses we have 1, 2, and it is on index 11. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Therefore, the index of list 1, 2 is 11. Apart from searching, you can also insert an element at particular index in the list. So again, you have this my underscore list. So for some reason, you want to insert W at index 1. Because as you know, list is an ordered data structure. That means it remembers the order in which you are storing the data. So you are going to use index function. You can give the index at which you want to add the value, and then you want to pass the value with it. So now if you can see both of these lists, initially at index 1 we have 2. Now using the insert function at index 1 we have W. Similarly, if you want to insert the value of Python at index 4, we type 4 in the parentheses and then Python, and then we get the new list. When you run the new list, you will see that at index 4 you have Python. Now, there are other ways of checking whether an element is present in the list or not. So one way is using the in and not in operators. So suppose again you have this my list. You want to see if 90 exists in the list or not. You can just type 90 in my list. Now this will return a boolean true or false based on whether this value exists in this list or not. In this case, 90 is nowhere present in the list as you see here on the top part. Therefore, the result is false. If you do the same thing for parentheses 1, 2 in my list, you will get true. The reason because this nested list is an element in my list. You can also check whether 117 not in my list. And in this case, you get true. So we are basically checking here whether 117 is not inside the list. Since it's not present in the list, we get a value of true. So index function that we first see here basically returns the index of the element if it's present in the list or not. In and not in basically just give you a true or false that whether it exists in the list or whether it does not. Now the next thing that we are going to learn is we want to learn how to remove an element from the list. If you want to remove any value from the list based on the value itself, you can just use the remove function as we have seen in theory. So let's see here. Let's see we want to remove 4. Algorithm has gone through the list and it's removed the first 4 that it has found in the list while the other 4 is still there. If I run this code one more time, then it's going to remove the second 4 in the list. So you can do the same thing for 3. Let's type here 3 and run this code. And now it's going to remove the first 3 in the list. Second way, of course, is by giving the index of the element to be removed. For example, you want to remove the element 1. So you are going to use the index of element 1 and you will use the del keyword. You give the list name and in the parentheses, you give the index 0. And in this case, you will notice that 1 is no longer present in the list. Now, another thing comes when you combine a concept of looping and list, which is remember that we were using the range function for loop over elements. So you can actually loop over data structures like list and tuple. So the basic structure is just like a normal for loop. You will give a variable, in this case it's element, which will loop over, and then you will give the data structure. In this case, it's either a list or a tuple. So for element in my list basically says at each repetition, pick a value from the list and then store it in element. So if you print the value of element at each step, you will see that it basically prints the entire list one by one. So first was W, because W is the first element. It was 2. Then it was 3, and so on. Now, apart from iterating in a list, there are also some things that you can do upon a list using some functions. For example, here we have a new list. We have mylist _ 2. And if you want to see how many elements are present in that list, then you can use the len function. Len function will basically tell you how many values or elements are present in the list. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the output we expect is 5 and the result is 5. Similarly, if you want to sort this list, you can use the sorted function. So initially, it was some random values in some random order. When you use the sort function here, it sorts the values in ascending order. So you can also give another parameter here, which is reverse equal to true. This basically tells it to sort it in descending order. Let's run this. And now the largest value is first and the smallest value is last. Apart from this, let's come to the concept of nested list. Now this concept we have already seen before, that this happens either when you append a list to another list. So as you see here, mylist3 is our new list and we have nested list inside this list. We have another list 1, 2, 1, and we have A, B, C. And there's another list A inside mylist3. So let's see what are the contents of mylist3. When we run this, we will see the contents. Now, if you print length of this list, what do you think will be the output? How many values this list has? So do you think it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or it's going to be 1, 2, entire list as 3, entire list as 4, 5, and entire list as 6. So when you run the length function, you will see that it's 6. Because for Python, this list itself is actually a value. It's representing single value, even though it has multiple values in itself. But if you look at the overall level, this list has 6 elements. Of those 6 elements, there are actually lists. Now let's try to access the element at index 1. So mylist _ 3 in the square parentheses 1. That means we want to get the value at index 1. We get 2. When you do the same thing for index 2, then you will get the entire list 1, 2, 1, because this nested list is at index 2. Now suppose you want to take it a step further and you want to also access elements within this list. Then you can use another square bracket. So what this will do is, this will first find the list at index 2 and index 2 get the list. The second index is actually for elements inside the second list. So if you do 2 and 1, it will basically get first the list, which is 1, 2, 1. And then 1, it's going to get the first index in this list. 0, 1, and 1 at index 1, we have the value of 2. Therefore, when you run this code, you will get the value of 2. Similarly, you can again give minus indexes for everything. So -3 means the bigger list, you take the third last element. So you're going to start this time from right. -1, -2, and -3. Then -1 of this nested list is going to be the letter C. So therefore, when you run this code, you will get C. So these are the basics of lists. And in the next video, we will learn more about tuples. Thank you for watching this video.